Josh Mailman is here now with the SNMMI Patient Advocacy Group, and I know you were diagnosed with a neuroendocrine tumor in 2007. Tell me about your journey.
You know, it's been a long, incredible 10-year journey, and I was diagnosed with something pretty rare in 2007, pancreatic neuroendocrine tumor, something that there were not a lot of new treatments for, and since I wasn't a surgical candidate, I really didn't have that many options. I was lucky to be stable at the time, so I spent the time educating myself on potential treatments that might happen if I needed them. And I was fortunate actually to be at a conference in 2008 in Vancouver where I listened to Dr. Richard Baum, who was speaking at the tail end of the conference about this new imaging technique called gallium-68. And I looked at it, and being a technology entrepreneur and always wanting more data, said this is probably something I need to do to see how this might impact my disease management. And I flew over to Germany soon after there to have my first gallium-68 and to learn more about what this might mean for my disease and my treatment and my arc of how I live my life. And at the time, it didn't really change my treatment, but I learned a lot more about my disease and what other potential treatments might be there for me down the road. And unfortunately, my disease progressed pretty rapidly about 4 months later, and there was really nothing for me in the United States at the time. There had been no approved drugs for 20 years. What I had didn't really have any new treatments. And I called Dr. Baum in Germany and said, I was progressing, do you have anything? And he said, we have this treatment. It's a nuclear peptide radioreceptor therapy, and there started my journey with both diagnostics and therapy, where I've had successfully 3 treatments in 2009 and 10, and then another treatment in 2016 that really regressed my disease and let me live a fairly normal life, and some say an abnormal life, but with all my traveling and working on patient advocacy. And really from that experience, I worked on trying to help spread the word about nuclear medicine and molecular imaging because it was so important to my health.
So because you were a patient, you got this education in nuclear medicine that you might not have otherwise gotten, but you've also learned a lot about how nuclear medicine is impacting all kinds of patients. Can you talk about that a little?
Sure, and I divide it up in a couple of different ways. I mean, nuclear medicine and molecular imaging treats lots of different types of disease, not only neuroendocrine tumors, but we ran a patient education session here yesterday that had breakout sessions for thyroid cancer, for Alzheimer's, including neuroendocrine tumor, and these are all areas where there's great advancements coming in nuclear medicine. What I've been able to do with gallium-68, or for me, with gallium-68 dotatate and dotatalk, and being able to really get precision imaging, which was now approved by the FDA last year at this conference, it's now trickling into, we'll see it in prostate cancer soon. So we'll be able to really change the way that prostate cancer is managed in this country, and it's changing the way that will be managed around the world. So it's really kind of exciting. We're really watching an explosion of new possibilities for patients. It's an incredibly exciting time, not only for the physicians and the technologists and the researchers here, but also for the patients, not only in the US, but around the world, because a lot of these treatments become more accessible with nuclear medicine because of the way it can be delivered and be such a durable cure for them.
With those exciting advancements, there are still some challenges. So what advice would you give to attendees here about the potential need for some change?
Well, there's a couple of different things, and it is a complex problem. It starts with making sure that we educate our not only patients, which we do here as well, but we educate our referring physicians so that they understand what the new advancements are and how they may change their clinical practice. But in order to do that, we also need to make sure we have the evidence that oncologists, for instance, would need to in order to put this in their practice. So we really have to work on prospective randomized trials and other things that oncologists do in their standard of practice so that we can adhere to that. Because I think what was happening, in the 20 years that the PRT was going around for NETs is oncologists were aware, but they kept saying it's retrospective data or it's small, and the protocols changed between different trials, and it wasn't great evidence for them, and it wasn't great evidence for regulators. And at the end of the day, we really need to provide that so that not only can we have availability in places that are doing the study, but we can have wide access when we can have regulatory approvals and wide adaptations. And we have to work on getting really great access to these incredible treatments that are increasing the time of life people have, but not only the time, but the quality of life. And it's just amazing to see what, in my disease, where a drug might have progression-free survival for a year, maybe 18 months, we're now seeing these therapies that might have progression-free survival for 40 months. So it really can change the arc of someone's life. And patients are incredibly grateful to the nuclear medicine field for providing that.
And it's a great goal that you get the word out. Josh Mailman, I appreciate you being here. Wish you much success with your advocacy and with your own health. Thank you.